Residents of the area said they were glad to be rid of MOVE, but questioned the price they had to pay. To discuss that price and the situation, we have the Philadelphia Police Commissioner, Gregory Sambor, who personally authorized the bomb dropping on the house, and Thatcher Longstreth, a member of the Republican minority on the Philadelphia City Council. Commissioner Sambor, first of all, in view of what happened now, do you think there was a better way to have done this?
We tried to look at every other option, to use mechanical equipment, cranes, but none of them could meet our objectives of eliminating the MOVE members from maintaining a tactical advantage from the rooftops. And as a last resort to eliminate the continued use of that vantage point to shoot at police officers and to prevent any loss of life to police officers and fire personnel, it was determined that we would use this alternative step to remove the object and also to gain access into the property.
How much did you know about the nature of the bomb that was used when you authorized its use?
I knew the strength of it. I knew what it was capable of doing. And contrary to public opinion and popular opinion, it was not primarily an incendiary device. It was an explosive device improvised by our bomb unit to dismantle the bunker and also to be utilized at the same time to gain entry into the roof.
The local head of the American Civil Liberties Union, Burton Kane, said today that trained public safety officials should have known that the dropping of a bomb into a row home full of ammunition and other explosives in a tightly compacted area is like lighting a match in a room full of gas. What is your response to that?
I think that's an irresponsible statement. I think that it is based on conjecture. It is not based on fact. The individual, unless he had been in the MOVE house, would not know anything about the conditions in that house, nor as to whether or not it was in fact in a compact area. There is nothing that we can determine from the operation itself or from any information that we were able to gather that there was anything near the roof. As a matter of fact, information that has been determined subsequent to this event indicates that the majority of anything inflammable or otherwise was in the basement. We also have information to the extent that that inflammables were thrown over the roof by the MOVE members, which in our estimation provided the input. Secondly of all...
You mean that's what really started the fires, is it?
The incendiary, that is correct. And it did not start, in other words, the helicopter that circled over after the object was dropped did not notice fire immediately, and there was no fire immediately. The fire started from inside and immediately below the roof, not on the roof. So this further supports our contention that it is a result of incendiary material that was placed there by the MOVE members.
I see. Let's turn to City Councilman Longstreth. What is your view of how this was handled, sir?
Well, I think the major criticism that should be leveled at the administration relates not essentially to the police action of last night as much as it does over the 6 months previously when MOVE was fortifying the House when they were not paying their bills, not abiding by regulations, where they were indicating very clearly that the same procedure which had taken place in 1978 was going to be repeated again in 1985. And I think the unwillingness of the administration to confront them in any way at all, until forced to do so by the neighbors of MOVE out in the Osage Avenue area, is the most serious single criticism that I would level at the mayor and his forces.
Well, was that a subject that came up in City Council? Were people urging the mayor to do something about it?
No, it did not come up in City Council. It really isn't something that relates to City Council, something that relates to the chief executive and his right to do these kinds of things. I think it's quite obvious he knew about it, and somebody had told city authorities to lay off the MOVE people because they were getting away with things that the ordinary citizen couldn't do, and they were getting away with it over a period of many months.
Commissioner just let me go back to the commissioner for a second. Commissioner Sambor, were the police urging the mayor to let you take action and against the MOVE people earlier?
Well, it is not a matter of urging. The mayor was informed, and it was a consensus that at the time that this was originally discussed, that the violations were primarily of a minor nature, of a summary nature, and that the felonies and misdemeanors that were later placed on the warrants for their arrest, which we served yesterday, were determined as a result of investigations and their subsequent action in the immediate past.
You mean you wouldn't have had the law on your side to have moved earlier? Is that what you mean?
We would not have had the felonies and misdemeanors to move against them as we did at this final stage earlier on, and to risk what we considered legitimately from all the available intelligence, as was already enunciated by Mr. Asa Moore, that these people were zealots, they were radical, they were prepared to fight. The circumstances that erupted yesterday confirmed our suspicions that this potential existed. And to go against them for violations of sanitation, not paying a gas bill or anything else such as has been enunciated, in our estimation, was not worth the tactical exercise or the potential loss of life.
Councilman Longstreth, what's your view?
Well, in other words, the MOVE people had frightened the administration out of taking the ordinary disciplinary steps that would be taken against the ordinary citizens. There are two factors here that are very important, I think. One is that we really, in terms of taking action against the MOVE people, we didn't take that action until the citizens of that area demanded it. And I'm afraid that this is fairly typical of the way in which Mayor Good runs Philadelphia. He moves only when there's a real confrontation and a real crisis, and it's government by crisis.
How do you suggest, Councilman Longstreth, that the MOVE people had frightened the city into not taking action?
Well, if you had had anything to do with the MOVE people, you'd understand what a confrontation with them is like. They're the most unreasonable group of people I've seen. They're heavily armed. There had been an incident in 1978 which occurred in the death of a police officer. There was every reason for the police to be very concerned about what was taking place there. The thing I can't understand is when the MOVE people started to build their fortress on the roof, and if I did that in my home, I'd have license and inspections in there in 5 minutes wanting to know what I was doing. They were allowed to go ahead with this, and it wasn't until the mayor was confronted with the citizens there that he took the necessary action. I might add also two very important points. One, I believe that it was a great mistake for the police to authorize the use of that weapon, knowing as little about it as they did. Obviously, they were wrong. It was an incendiary weapon. I have seen the explosions in the television, and it is hard for me to believe that they resulted from inflammables that were thrown up on the roof by the MOVE people. Second thing is that having done this, there should have been fire equipment there with water to throw on immediately and prevent that conflagration from spreading as rapidly as it did.
Commissioner Sanborn?
First of all, it is not an incendiary device. Secondly of all, as I stated, that we do have information that tells us that the MOVE people did pour inflammable mixture on the rooftops. Thirdly of all, relative to taking the action and in an unsupported manner, it was, again I reiterate, the last alternative to prevent continued loss of life. Relative to the fire.
Yeah, what about the councilman's point, Commissioner, that that they had the administration scared because they were going ahead with they were heavily armed, going ahead with their fortification, and nothing was done about it, whereas he says ordinary people would have been required to have a permit to do that kind of structure and so on.
Well, whether I can't answer that question as opposed, because that does not come within the purview of the police department, and we would only act in support of other city departments responsible for this type of enforcement. However, if I may return to the statement made relative to the fire, we did place water into the area. We were attempting to keep the fire under control. We had the fire under control, and the only reason that it got out of control is because the MOVE personnel again began to fire at the police, so that as a result, we withdrew the fire forces to remove any danger of them being killed or seriously injured.
Councilman Longstreth?
There's another point I'd like to make, and again, my major criticism goes back to the slowness with which this whole thing was faced up to over a period of months. The district attorney told the mayor, I think a year ago, that there was every legal reason to take action against the MOVE people at that time. I think that it put a terrible strain and pressure upon the police force that they were not asked to move until so late in the game that they were faced with a very, very difficult task. However, I really find it very difficult to accept the fact that this bomb, which was a percussion bomb, the whole concept was that it would stun people in the fortress and allow the police to make an entrance, I think very proper if the weapon had worked, had not been properly evaluated. And the very fact that it turned out to be incendiary, it certainly set a fire, and the fire grew rapidly and destroyed 60 houses, says, I think, enough on the improper judgment that was used in the evaluation of this particular weapon in this particular place.
You had not evaluated the explosive beforehand, Commissioner?
Oh, yes. Yes, we had, and it is not normally, and it was not expected, and in previous tests did not provide us with the serious concern of a fire that such as what resulted.
Can we move on to what happens now? The latest report, while we've been on the air with this program, has been that you have now found 4 bodies in the remains of those houses. How many MOVE members do you believe you were fighting against, and what's happened to them?
We have no idea how many MOVE members were in the residence, and we do not have any idea as to how many were adults and how many were children. Our best estimates from intelligence sources is that there were possibly 8 adults and possibly as many as 6 or 8 children that could have been in that property. However, they have 2 other properties in Philadelphia, and they also had a property in Chester. Now, there was an incident in which arrests were made in Chester, and there were either 4 or 6 children taken into custody at that site.
Is that today? That
was
today?
yesterday.
Yesterday.
That was yesterday. In addition, there is 1 child that is in our custody. So, and we don't know about the other 2 houses. So there is no way that we can actually give a figure. There were rumors of tunnels. When the excavations are completed, we may be able to more definitively ascertain as to whether those rumors and the intelligence received about the construction of tunnels was true. I might point out that the incidents of yesterday tended to support that there was some type of tunnel or cave structures inside the building, because after the building had burned, the fire officials were certain that there was no one that was left alive in that building, and it was after that that the 4 people came out and again began firing at the police officers. So where they came from and how they escaped the fire is still a question that has to be determined.
So at this moment, you don't know how many are still at large or how many may be dead in the buildings?
Well, we know that there are people that in the other MOVE buildings, just who they are, and as a determination of what happens if we can make identifications of those bodies that have been found to date, then we will make a determination as to whether anybody for whom we have warrants is still possibly alive and in hiding, as to what moves we will make, and that will be after discussion with the district attorney and our other legal sources as to what action will be taken in the immediate future.
Finally, just one more quick question. Do you, beyond the branch in Chester, do you know of any other branches in other cities of this MOVE movement?
No, I do not know of any other branches. However, I do know that there are sympathizers in several cities, because we have from time to time received correspondence from them down south, further west, even to the north. But to my knowledge, there are no other compounds, as they prefer to call them, in any other cities except ours.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sambor and Councilman Longstreth. Jim?